Okay, I have
That's good,
7:30.
too.
You all set, Mary? Virginia, you all set?
Yep.
Yes.
All righty. We're going to call to order our first hearing of the evening. This is the application of Tara and Stephen McCarthy. I'm going to summarize the advertisement rather than read all the technical nitty-gritty. The McCarthy's application is dated January 27, 2014, and they seek variances so as to build an addition to their single-family residence, which is located at 27 Thompson Lane in Milton. The addition is a 3-foot 3-inch by 12-foot by 1-story addition to the rear of that particular residence, and the McCarthy's home is located in the Residence C district. And the application states that the addition the proposed addition is going to be 22.1 feet from the rear lot line, when the zoning bylaw requires the setback to be 24.4 rather than the 22.1. And the proposed addition is 9.7 feet from the left property sideline, and the zoning bylaw requires 10 feet. My name is John Leonard. I'm chairman of the Board of Appeals. With me tonight, to my immediate right is Board Member Virginia Donahue King, and to my immediate left is Board Member Nicholas Gray. The rules of the board are going to be such that we'll first hear from the applicants, then we'll hear from people present who have questions of the applicant. We'll hear from people who wish to speak in support of the application, people, if any, who wish to speak in opposition to the particular application. We're tape recording the hearing this evening, which will be the official record and not the record in TV land, so that we'd ask that anybody who is going to speak, tell us your name and address. Before you speak, speak up nice and clear and loud, even though this is a relatively small room, so that we'll have a nice, clear record of the proceeding if we have to revert to the tape in order to write a decision in this case. I've summarized the advertisement. We're going to have as evidence at the particular hearing the January 27th, 2014 application of the applicants. We have the denial letter of Joseph Prondek, our trustee building commissioner. It's dated January 22nd, 2014. And the McCarthys have filed with us a computerized plan from designer Marlene Ketchen showing the proposed addition, at least the interior of the proposed addition. We have a sketch showing the proposed addition. And we also have a plot plan of land by Robert E. Hannigan, dated January 14th, 2014, shows the existing dwelling, the proposed addition, and the distances from the various lot lines. So we thank the applicants for filing all of those materials with us. And I think we have Stephen and Tara McCarthy, was it?
Correct.
Welcome to the Board of Appeals. Why don't you describe your application and tell us why you think the board should grant the requested variances.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Leonard, and appreciate the board hearing our appeal this evening. We're here, as you saw in that sketch of our kitchen, is to slightly expand our kitchen. Basically, we want to more comfortably put in our kitchen table. And add some more cabinet space. We're a family of 5, and we frequently eat meals together. We both come from large extended families, and we like to entertain our neighborhood friends as well. So it is quite simply just that, to slightly expand our kitchen. Our neighborhood is such where the homes are pretty tightly packed together, and what we're seeking to do is really not greatly alter the shape of our home. We have a pretty small backyard as it is to begin with, and we really don't want to encroach upon that too much. I have some photographs here which I'll share with you in a moment, but we really don't want to eat up too much more of our backyard. It is only a 3-foot addition, which again can help us encompass that kitchen table more comfortably, but not eat away too much at our backyard. We feel that the addition would still be in keeping with the character of the house, the character of our neighborhood. We feel that it's very inobtrusive not only to us for the reasons I said about encroaching upon our patio space, but also unobtrusive to our abutting neighbors. We have engaged both Maureen Mamet, whose residence is to the rear of our property.
She's the neighbor most affected.
She would be the neighbor most affected. She'd be in full view of it. We spoke with her recently. She was fully on board, appreciated us reaching out to her, had no problems with it at all. Jennifer Griffin.
In fact, she supports your application for variance as opposed to just not having any
She
objections.
supports it, yes.
Okay, great.
yes.
Okay.
She was, in fact, stunned to receive a letter showing that it was only 3 feet.
Well, it's almost a bump out, isn't it?
It is.
Really.
Yeah. It's one-story bump out, yeah. Jennifer Griffin, our other abutting neighbor, would have some view of our proposed addition, is also supportive of it. Again, no objections to it. So those are the two neighbors that we were most concerned about, and we did communicate our plans with them, and they are both supportive. And just to give a little bit more credence and clarity to what we're doing here, I did want to provide a few pictures of our proposed addition. That is the rear of our house, and what I have outlined is what it would encompass. Again, one story, that's the width of it is that 12 feet. That is our existing kitchen. This is our existing bay window at the rear of the house, which already juts out 18 inches from our home. And basically, the addition would involve going out to basically that bush right there. Again, we really don't want to take away too much of our patio. I did measure it out. You can probably see some of the numbers there in the measuring tape, but you can probably make out what is 3 feet, 3 inches or so. This photograph here is the Griffin's home right here. This is their garage. This is their kitchen. So again, this bump out, they really wouldn't be able to see it unless they went into their backyard or strained to look out their kitchen window. And this is, again, from the rear of our house, this is Maureen Mamet's home right here, again, who we spoke to recently about our addition. And again, as you can see, we don't have a whole lot of room in our backyard, and it's really important to us not to take away too much of it, since we don't have a lot to begin with. That really is the only way we can expand our kitchen, and I'll give you one more picture. This is the other side wall of our kitchen, which is pretty close to the Griffin's fence right here. We really, obviously, we don't want to expand on this side because that would eat away way too much of that side yard and be too close to their fence. So the only way that we can expand our kitchen is out the back. And with that, I think I've provided all the evidence that we would like to submit, and I would appreciate the board's comments and in consideration of our appeal.
Great. Let me just ask you a couple of basic questions. The first one is the addition, is it going to be constructed substantially in accordance with the sketch plans that you've provided?
It would be.
So you're not going to be changing your plans after the hearing?
No.
Because that causes all kinds of difficulties to us when we usually tie in any variance that we grant to either building plans or to respectable sketch plans like this. And so that's important. Secondly, are you going to finish off the addition if you get your variance so that it's reasonably consistent with the color of the existing residence, and
Yes.
it's going to conform with the architecture and the color scheme of the house?
Yeah,
It's not
same
gonna
type of shingles, color, yes.
some crazy color or some pagoda-like expansion. That's true, huh? Okay. Let me see if my colleagues, I don't have any questions. I do have one more question. You said you're doing this to expand your kitchen because you've got a family of 5. Obviously, there are 3 children.
Yes.
How old are the kids?
8, 6, and 4.
Ah, okay. Great. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions. Mrs. King? Mr. Nicholas Gray?
Nope.
Okay, well, it's remarkably quick. Let's see if there's anybody present this evening who have any questions of Mr. and Mrs. McCarthy and their variance application. And the record indicates no such people are here. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in support of the McCarthy's application? And there's no such person. Is there anybody present this evening who'd like to speak in opposition to this application for variance, or variances? Thundering silence. Nobody's here. So if you have, do you have anything further you'd like to add in support of your application?
No.
Okay, it's
I
usually best to quit when you're ahead and nobody's shooting at you.
said my piece.
Okay, great. So why don't we close the evidence portion of the hearing? And as you probably know, we're required under the open meeting law to discuss your application in open session and to vote on it, and we intend to do that here and now. Mrs. King, please.
Well, I'm familiar with this neighborhood, and it's a lovely neighborhood, but the houses are close together. And I think that you have worked out a way that will be the minimum impact to the neighborhood, and in keeping with the idea of the zoning bylaw to adjust for additions that need to be done, but are difficult. And currently, I mean, it's a pretty small addition. And we would be going, let's see, we're to the left, we're no further into the prescribed area than we are currently.
Right.
So that's a good thing. And to the rear, there already is some garage that's further behind. So again, I'm feeling that this is something that is de minimis, and I would be inclined to be voting for it.
Mr. Gray.
I would tend to agree with all of those comments. It's obvious from the plan that the addition is going to be small in scale and in keeping with the other houses in the neighborhood. If it were me, I almost would have asked for another foot or so just to round it out, but
We like our patio.
But we
yeah,
appreciate
but you
your
have a
restraint.
patio, but we appreciate the restraint.
Exactly, yeah.
It's obvious from the shape of the lot that there really isn't enough room to go, as you say, to go out to the left side at all. So I'd be I would be in favor of voting for the variances.
Okay. Well, look, I agree with my colleagues. I think the application was very well presented. It was presented in a very professional manner. I can't determine whether Mr. McCarthy is a photographer or a lawyer, or whether you're going to run for selectman or run for mayor somewhere. But it was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
You did your homework very, very well. We love to have photographs. Sometimes it's difficult to run around and look at these properties in the snow. But I thought it was very well presented, and as Mrs. King emphasized, it's really a minimalist variance that you're requiring. It's when I was looking at the plot plan earlier this afternoon, I was trying to find the proposed addition, to be frank about it, because I thought the proposed addition was the block that said proposed addition, and I said, that doesn't make any sense, that's in the middle of the house. And actually, the proposed addition it's almost a bump out. So while it technically isn't a de minimis variance, it's certainly a very skinny variance that is intended to provide more bang for the buck, obviously, for your residents and for your family, without, I think, any detrimental effect whatsoever on any of the neighbors. A witness that the neighbors who were mostly affected indeed support your application for variance. So when you have a case that where nobody's opposing the variance and there's no adverse effect on anybody, we tend to be less restrictive on some of the technical terms of the variance bylaw, which is very difficult to meet. So I think this application has merit, and I intend to vote for it as well. So we'll put in the decision when we write it and after we vote it, that the addition will have to be in substantial conformity with the plans that you filed with the board, so that Mr. Prondak can go out and see it and make sure you're building what you said you'd build. And you basically you have 1 year to start the variance, and that could include just taking out a building permit. So if for whatever reason, family reasons, monetary reasons, health reasons or something, you're not able to start your variance within that 1 year period, be sure to come in to us before the year expires, so that we can grant a 6-month extension if you want it. You don't have to do it, but, and you won't have to go through this process again. But I tend to think this is going to be built in April or May, and I hope it is. So all those in favor of granting the applicant's application for the 2 variances required?
Aye.
We write our decisions here, we don't use forms. So it generally takes a couple of weeks to prepare the decisions and then circulate it. Once it is finished, Mrs. Fitzgerald will send you a copy. I don't know whether you're going to do this edition yourself, I hope you're not, but your builder can probably help you, because you should be recording your variance with the Registry of Deeds so that the title to your house is kept up to date. So if you have any questions there, you can talk with Mr. Prondak or Mary, or your builder can talk to them and get a certified copy of the variance. And make sure you record that within a year, because there's existing case law that says if you don't record your variance, it expires, it's of no value, it's a nullity. So you want to be sure. Mr. Gray would probably know better than I on that, but you want to at least record that variance to make sure it's affected. So congratulations on your variance. Thank you for your presentation, and good luck on your new addition.
Thank you very much, we appreciate it.
I don't mind if you walk downstairs, Mary, okay? No, take your time, that's fine.
Well, I didn't know that, Cindy checked
Bye-bye.
Good
now.
evening.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck.
No. Oh, sure. Hi, Mr. Sheffield, how are you?
Said Baker Conference
Come on.
Room, but
Well, I know, everyone, Mary's gone downstairs right now to make sure that, let me do this on the record. We're going to take a very brief, about a 1-minute recess. Mrs. Fitzgerald has gone downstairs to make sure there's nobody waiting down in the Baker conference room for the hearing. Okay, well, she's just going to check it. Second hearing of the evening, this is the application of Steve and Meg Grandy. And I'll summarize this application. Are you Mr. Grandy? Yes. Sure, why don't you come on up and make yourself comfortable, Mr. Grandy. I'll take care of some formalities, and then we'll move on to the hearing. Mr. and Mrs. Grandy live at 25 Woodchester Drive in Milton. Their application is dated January 31, 2014, and they seek a variance from the terms of Section 61 of the bylaw so as to build a 14-foot by 16-foot by 2.5-story addition to the rear of the existing single-family residence. The residence is in a residential C district. The addition here is proposed to be 17 feet from the rear property line when the bylaw requires the addition to be 27.09. My name is John Leonard. I'm chairman of the Board of Appeals, and I'll be acting as chairman for this hearing. With me tonight, to my immediate left, is board member Nicholas Gray, and to my immediate left is board member Virginia Donahue King. The rules of the board are going to be the same as at the first hearing. We'll hear from the applicant, we'll hear from people who have questions of the applicant, who wish to speak in support or in opposition to this application. We're tape recording the hearing this evening, so would ask that anybody, before they speak, tell us your name and address, speak up nice and clear and loud, so we'll have an accurate record of the proceeding if we have to revert to the tape. We have as evidence at this particular hearing the Grandy's application dated January 31st, 2014. We have the denial letter by Mr. Prondak, our building commissioner. It's dated January 22nd, 2014. And we have a plot plan of land by Michael Paul Antonino. It is dated November 20, 2013. And it shows the subject lot and its dimensions, its shape, and the distances from the various lot lines. So we thank the applicant for filing those materials with us. Mr. Grandy, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your application for a
Great.
variance?
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard. Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Grandy. I reside at 25 Woodchester Drive. I've been at this residence since 1999. I'm here this evening requesting a variance to put the addition on as was stated. If you look at the plot plan, we're not expanding the existing footprint. So the room that we're looking to go above is that room in the back, which is the living room. We're going to use the exact same dimensions. The integrity of the house will be intact. It will match the integrity of the neighborhood. Again, I think the key point here is we are not expanding our footprint. We just want to go right above that room there and go out to the back of the house. Trying to be as proactive as I could for this meeting. I certainly went around and spoke and/or called all of our abutting neighbors and then some. They were all very complimentary, many of which said, "Can I go to the meeting? Can I help you out?" I said, "No, I don't think that would be necessary." What I have done is I did walk around and got multiple signatures, not only from the immediate abutting neighbors, but also other neighbors in the neighborhood that are certainly all for it. I'd also like to submit a couple of photos where the first one is a photo of the front of the house where you'll see the addition won't even come into play, so the integrity will be intact. And then this one is a side angle, and you'll see towards the rear of the photo where the living room is now. That's where we'd like to go, right above that. You know, the purpose of the variance that we're applying for, I know that when we fill out the application, you need to claim your hardship. Fortunately or unfortunately, I guess, the hardship that we have is the property line is an angle on that piece of the property there, which I was told, I believe it was back in the 70s when the people who owned the house before I did also applied for a variance for that room that you see right there. And again, we're looking to just go right above it.
And so that was granted, the earlier
Correct.
request for variance in the 1970s, did you say?
Yes, I believe it's the 70s.
Okay. You don't have any sketches of the, do you have a sketch of the proposed?
I have a sketch of a proposed of what will go on the addition. And I guess, let me see, I guess you could use this one as somewhat of a
Well,
sketch
that's what we're looking for.
of what it would look like from the
Yeah,
outside.
the inside, unless we're going to redesign our own residences, we usually don't get overly concerned about the inside. I know Ginny was taking a close look at the kitchen on the first application, but, yeah, this is fine. And
Great.
that's a fair representation of what your addition is going to look like when
Yes.
it's completed. Okay, great. And other than the hardship of the unusual shape of your property, you need this for additional living room for your family? And
Correct. What we propose the addition for is for a master bath and, of course, some additional closet space. And again, the two neighbors that it abuts the most would be the Sweeneys and Mr. Jovino, and they are absolutely in support of this.
Great, let me just, okay, so Mr. Jovino is Paul Jovino.
Correct.
Jovino, and he's at 16 Sheridan Drive. And where is Mr. Jovino in relation to your property?
So he would
If I was
be-
in the street looking dead on at your
If you're
property.
in the street looking down on my property, he is the property that abuts the angle. So he is actually the closest to the property line going directly back.
So he's up here?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Sweeney, where is Mr. Sweeney? Where does he live?
Mr. Sweeney would be to the right of the property. So his property is actually technically on Sheridan Drive, his front door. So his backyard approaches the room that you see there.
I don't see his signature on the petition.
Right. For various reasons, Mr. Sweeney passed away a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Mrs. Sweeney hasn't really been around much.
That's terrible. So in any event, the Sweeney supports your application? Okay. As do
Yes,
the 13 or 14 people who signed your petition.
correct.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I have covered it all.
Okay, let me see if my colleagues have any questions.
Great.
Mr. Gray, do you have any questions?
I don't think so, actually.
Mrs. King?
No, everything was answered.
Great.
Okay, and I think I may not have asked you this. I asked you about the shape of the addition and all of that, but you're going to finish it off in a consistent manner with the existing
Absolutely.
dwelling. Okay. Well, if you have nothing further to add, let's see if there's anybody who wants to be heard on the application. Is there anybody this evening who has questions of the applicant? Okay, the record indicates there's no such person present. Is there anyone present who hasn't signed the petition who wishes to speak in support of Mr. Grandy's application for variance? And the record indicates no such person present. Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance application? We have a reluctant bunch tonight, so there's nobody who wishes to speak in opposition. Is there anything else you'd like to add in support of your application?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. So why don't we end the evidence portion of this particular hearing, and we'll discuss the application in open session as we're required to do under the open meeting law, and we'll vote on this application. Mr. Nicholas Gray, please.
Okay, because the the addition fits within the same footprint, it would seem not to be much of an issue for the neighbors. We're not further encroaching, at least horizontally. Yeah, the mass is a little bit more, obviously, I think, but it's consistent with the scale of the house and other houses in the neighborhood, most likely, and so I would tend to support the application.
Okay, Mrs. King, please.
Well, I agree with everything that Nick has said, but I also, the diagonal line to the back really is the reason that you're here today.
Correct.
And but for that, you would be in a fully conforming area of the property. So I would also, with that in mind as well, vote in favor of it.
Okay, look, I agree with my colleagues. I think when I was looking at Google Earth this afternoon, when I was a little bored to see what the density of these properties are, this is a very, very dense neighborhood, very small lots, but a very nice, nice neighborhood. This is the crazy shape to the lot. I don't know what the historical reason for slicing the backyard this way happened to be, but it certainly puts you at a sincere disadvantage when you come to applying the bylaw to a lot such as this. The proposed addition is necessary for Mr. Grandy and his family. It's not a large addition at all. It's within the footprint. It doesn't further encroach. Everyone in the neighborhood has support this application. They probably have also secured variances of this type in order to expand their residences for their growing family. So I likewise intend to vote for this application. So all those in favor of granting the relief requested by Mr. Grandy?
Aye.
Aye.
You heard my speech to the McCarthy's first applicants. Take us a couple of weeks to prepare this, get it signed, get it filed. I did not tell the McCarthy's, and I'll tell you, but I don't think it's an issue, that even though nobody's opposed your variance here, there's still a 20-day appeal period. And there's a 20-day period before you can pull your building permit. But you have your builder, unless, are you going to construct this yourself?
I am not.
Okay. You look like you could, to be frank about it. If you are going to deal with your builder, with Mr. Prondak and Mary, and make sure you get your variance recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Okay.
So with that having been said, we'll put a condition in that essentially says that you're going to construct your residence, your addition substantially in conformity with this plan. And when I say that, I mean materially. I mean, if you wanted to move a window 6 inches or a foot, I don't think anyone's
Right.
going to complain.
Right.
But on the other hand, if the shape of the structure was going to change, we held a public hearing on this and not
Understood.
some future plans of yours. So
Understood.
it's probably best to stay with this as close as you can. So congratulations, you made a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I think, Mr. Sheffield, these lay people are making, they must be watching you make your presentations. They're doing an excellent job of preparing their cases, and so congratulations on
Thank you very much.
If you
Appreciate
have
your
any
time.
questions whatsoever, speak with me.
Will do. Great, thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
Let me write this one next.
Go look at Google Earth now.
Wow,
What did we do before that?
it's amazing. It is absolutely.
It's really helpful.
It's a phenomenal tool, and there are better tools than that, but I just,
Well, it's available
it's
easily.
available. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Okay, we all set for our third hearing. Mr. Sheffield, why don't you come up and make yourself comfortable, sir? Let me do the preambles, and we'll get going. We're going to call to order our third hearing of the, if you want your clients to join you, feel free, whatever.
At this point, not necessary.
Okay.
Oh,
Except, yeah. Okay, sometimes people even bring the children up here, and sometimes they get a kick out of it, so they can do whatever. They're bashful.
The cookies are good, but they're not that good.
Okay, well, that's fine, then we won't put
all
anybody
right.
under any pressure. We're going to call to order our third and final hearing of the evening. This is the application of Matthew and Heather Bergen. It's dated February 10th, 2014, seeking a variance so as to build a 10-foot 5-inch by 19-foot 2-inch open deck on the rear of their existing single-family residence, which is located at 108 Governors Road in Milton, which is located in a Residence C district. The addition is to be set back, proposed to be set back 27.6 feet from the rear property line rather than the 30 feet required under Section 61 of the bylaws. My name is John Leonard. I'll be acting as chairman for this particular hearing. With me this evening, to my immediate right is Board Member Virginia Donahue King, and to my immediate left is Board Member Nicholas Gray. The rules of the board are going to be the same as we've observed at all of the hearings. We'll hear from the applicant, in this case, Mr. Sheffield. Then we'll hear from any people who have questions of the applicant. We'll hear from people who wish to speak in support of the application this evening, and any person who wishes to speak in opposition to the application. Not many people have chosen to speak this evening, so we'll see what happens on this one. We're tape recording the proceedings, so that just tell us your name and address before you speak, so that we'll have an accurate a record of the proceeding if we have to revert to that to write a decision. In addition to the advertisement, which I've just summarized, we have the application, which was filed by Mr. Sheffield on February 14, 2014. We have Mr. Prondak's denial letter dated October 7, 2013. We have a plot plan of land prepared by C.S. Kelly, Land Surveyors of Pembroke. It's dated September 12, 2013, showing the property and the improvements to the property, the proposed deck, and the addition, the relationship of the proposed deck to the rear sideline. In true to form, Mr. Sheffield has also supplied us with the zone of butters list, which we sincerely appreciate as a courtesy to the board. And we have a letter from Mr. Sheffield to Mrs. Fitzgerald, the principal clerk of the board. It's dated February 12th, 2014, identifying the legal certified abutters to this property under the statute, rather than drawing circles or using other rather less formal types of notification. So we thank Mr. Sheffield for that. Welcome back to the board, Mr. Sheffield. I'm actually kind of shocked to see you here with these snowy conditions. What brought you back from Florida so early?
I am scheduled to be on a plane at 6:05 tomorrow morning.
I was going to suggest
Heading
that,
south.
in view of the crazy weather we have coming up, see how fortunate you are to have Mr. Sheffield fly up here for your application.
But it was a 60-degree day today, so I found it quite acceptable.
Well, we were more interested in what was the temperature in Florida today. Was it probably in the
It was about,
mid-80s?
82, and the golf was supposedly very, very, very nice.
Well, that's good. You'll have to send us a postcard after you get down there, so we'll know you're happy and well. Welcome back to the Board of Appeals. We're delighted to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm pleased to represent the Bergen family who purchased their home on Governor's Road 4 years ago. And since then, their family has been growing. The youngest member of the Bergen family is home with a babysitter. And
And how old is he or she?
Two.
Two. Well, that's wonderful.
Almost two, I should say.
That's
May
great.
12th.
May 12th, so, okay. 1 8/10 or something.
And they have 2.5 other children, so that they have a growing need, and to meet this growing need, they have put on an addition to their home. And to put on the addition, what they have done is to remove the rear deck and put on an addition to the back of their home. Now, before they can reattach their rear deck, it would be necessary to get a variance, because this would go within 27 and a half feet from the rear property line, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a 30-foot at the rear. The reason for it is obviously the growing family and the growing house. It is a dense neighborhood, and the Bergens have spoken to each and every one of their neighbors. I understand that a number of them have written letters to the board in support of the grant of this variance.
They have indeed, Mr. Sheffield, and I neglected to refer to the letter, so thanks, Mary, that's fine. I think we've received 3 or 4. So let me just cover that for the sake of the record. We have received 4. We've received a, oh, it's an undated letter, but it's from Michael and Gail. Is it Jelly or
Gelly.
Jaley? Gelly.
There are immediate butters on the rear.
Okay. And they live at 95 Plymouth Avenue in Milton, and they write to the board regarding this application. They say that our lot abuts the Bergens to the northeast, and the rear of our lot directly faces the open deck that is the subject of this appeal. We have no objection to the deck or to the proposed placement of the deck on the Bergens' property. The 2.5 feet in question does not pose any hardship for our property and poses no threat to the use or enjoyment of our property whatsoever. We request that you grant the Bergens a variance from the setback requirement, so we thank the Kellys for that. We have a letter from Gary McGilvery and Stacy Winnick McGilvery. They're at 109 Governors Road in Milton. They write to the board as of February 25, 2014. Kindly accept this letter in support of the application of Matthew and Heather Bergen for a variance. We live directly across the street from the growing Bergen family, and we fully support their application. We ask that you take this letter into consideration and to grant their application from the 30-foot setback requirement of the town bylaw at the public hearing, which is scheduled for March 11th. So we thank the McGilveries for their letter. Joe Rizzo of 102 Governors Road, Milton, writes to the board on February 26, 2014, with regard to your letter about proposed changes to the Matthew Bergen property. I have no objections to the deck or the placement as it relates to the 2.5-foot offset. This proposes no hardship to me or issues to my property whatsoever. Let me know if I can have, if you have any questions, and Mr. Rizzo gives us his cell phone, which I'm not going to read into the public record, lest he receive calls from other people out in TV land. And we have another letter from Jeremiah and Jennifer O'Sullivan, and they're at 112 Governors Road, Milton, and they write to the board. We write in support of Matthew and Heather Bergen's application. Our lot is directly next door to the Bergen's property in Governors Road. We have no objection or issues with the deck or the proposed placement of the deck on the Bergen's property. And the variance for the setback requirement does not pose any hardship to our property. And we respectfully ask that you grant Matthew and Heather Bergen a variance from the setback requirement. So we also thank the O'Sullivan. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, Mr. Sheffield. I think I interrupted you, so why don't you continue with your presentation?
I would just say that we've spoken to a number of abutters, and the abutters are all supportive of the application. You're granted the variance will allow the porch to be, or the deck to be reattached to the house, and the house will be complete, and the family will be able to meet its growing needs. If there are any questions, I would be glad to address them.
I just have one question, Mr. Sheffield, and that question is, are the Bergens seeking to reconstruct the original deck, or are they
Yes.
building a new deck?
No, this is...
They're attaching the old deck to the house.
This is
with a-
attaching the old deck.
What, we had an 18 by 19 deck.
Yep.
Which I cut and saved a portion, so I didn't have to pay for a new deck, and I pulled it away from the house with come-alongs, and then built our new addition. And so the deck is, a portion of the old deck is sitting in the backyard, unattached.
Ready to be recycled.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions. Mr. Gray?
No, that answers my question, which was exactly, to have you sort of take me through the drawing, but now I see exactly what you've done. So I think I'm satisfied of what that means.
Okay. And you have no further questions?
I have no
Okay.
further
And
questions.
Mrs. King?
How high is the deck off of the ground?
About 4.5 feet.
4.5 feet.
4.5 feet? Okay, so it's, okay.
The access to the deck will not extend into the backyard. We haven't interrupted the green space we had in the backyard. We had a deck and a little patio in front of it. We removed the patio, and now the deck is on the patio. The access to the deck will be from the side, so it will not go any further into the backyard.
And you have railing around the deck? I
Yes.
assume,
Oh,
of
yes.
some kind.
Yes.
And you have stairs going into the backyard?
It will be from the side.
Yes, it probably is on the plot plan.
It doesn't show the stairs?
It does.
Well, I think it does. It does,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, yes, I'm sorry, it did.
Does that accurately
Yes.
show the stairs?
Correct.
So I don't have any further questions. Let me see if any of our fellow citizens present this evening have any questions. Is there anybody present this evening who has any questions of Attorney Sheffield or Mr. Bergen? And there's no such person present. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in support of this application? And again, there's no such person present. And is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to this application for variance? and there's no such person present. So we're going to, let me just ask Mr. Sheffield to follow-up questions. Do you have anything further to add in support of the application, Mr. Sheffield?
No, sir, I think that's the information, and I would move to close the evidence portion of the hearing.
Oh, great. Well, I think we're going to grant Mr. Sheffield's motion. This is a record evening tonight with 3 applications and nobody speaking except the applicants, or I guess except the applicants and Mr. Sheffield. So somewhat unusual, but maybe that's because of the nature of the relief being requested here. So let's discuss this under the open meeting law as we're required to do so, and I think it's Mrs. Donahue King's turn. So Virginia.
Okay. Well, I'm interested that you're using something that came from the prior construction on or the existing construction on the house, and I'm aware that you've made a concession by making that smaller as well, so that it doesn't extend so far into the prescribed area to the back, and it's de minimis, I would say, on the the amount that it goes into the back. And so, given that it is, excuse me, it is a deck rather than something that is more massive and can get in the way of neighbors' feeling of light and air and all the rest of that. And in keeping with something where you've cut down the size of that, I'm tending to think that I'll vote for it.
Mr. Gray.
I echo Virginia's comments. I would merely add one thought that if I understood it correctly, the deck's footprint will be no larger than it was originally. Is that right? In other words, it will resume the position that it had before the addition.
The deck is slightly moved into the backyard because of the addition.
Okay.
But there was a slight patio in front of the deck.
Okay.
We just are on top of where the
But
patio was.
not significantly.
Not at all.
So on
Our
that basis.
backyard's a play area for everyone, so.
Okay. On that basis, with the obvious, extensive support of the neighbors, I don't have any objection to it.
Okay, and maybe you'll even vote in favor of that.
I may vote in favor of it as well, yes.
May not.
We'll see.
Okay, well, I agree with my learned colleagues. I think, Mr. Sheffield has made a wonderful presentation. It's a compelling presentation. Mr. Sheffield's always very well prepared when he appears before the board. The neighbors have been contacted. They have not only stated that they supported the application, they've written to the board and written letters. And we thank the neighbors for doing so. We have our abutters list, and we had a full and complete hearing. My view of this is that actually I did look at your property on Google Earth like I did the others, and actually your property was being improved at the time because there was a blue top on the roof of the dwelling.
That was a few months ago.
And so in any event, I think that this is an application that's very well presented. It's certainly an important amenity to the residents. It's an important amenity to the backyard. It's not intrusive to any reasonable degree on any of the neighbors. And essentially just finishing off an improvement project for which is going to improve not only a house, but also it's always great to have the neighborhood being upgraded and improved. So likewise, I intend to vote in favor of this application with the usual caveat that it'll be in substantial location as shown on the plot plan. So all those in favor of Mr. Bergen's request for a variance, say aye.
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 Mr. Bergen, I'm going to leave to Mr. Sheffield the procedures of getting the variance recorded and all of that. You're in very good hands. Thank you for coming this evening. Thank you for bringing your family back there. They're cute kids, and I'm sure they're going to enjoy the backyard. And Mr. Sheffield, have an early and safe flight back to the warm weather tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we have no further business. We'll adjourn the meeting of the board.